and welcome to the podcast. Very excited that he was even willing to come on, but we got some very exciting things to talk about. So everybody, welcome Brian Barczyk.
But first, I do want to thank the sponsors of today's show. And our first sponsor today is no stranger to the podcast, and that is our friends over at Arthropod Ambassadors. Now, their aim is to support others interested in bugs and the well-being of arthropods around the world. They're working on spreading education with resin art, the mobile bug zoo, and informational YouTube videos, as well as a recent new line of stickers and pins. From compost-enhancing roly-polies to alien-like top predator mantises, arthropods come in all shapes and sizes and are waiting to teach us more about the Earth that we all have in common. So if you're looking for a mantis, jumping spiders, isopods, roaches, or assassin bugs, head on over to arthropodambassadors.com and check out what species they have available. You can also find very helpful care videos for your pet mantis, scorpions, vingaroons, isopods, tarantulas, and other arthropods on their YouTube channel, also called Arthropod Ambassadors. You can also follow them on Instagram and Facebook and stay up to date with any new content or species that they may have available in the future. So a huge thanks to Arthropod Ambassadors for sponsoring this podcast. And if you want to learn more about them, I'll link the podcast that we did together down below in the show notes. And our second sponsor today is none other than TarantulaCribs.com. If you're looking for high-end acrylic enclosures for your tarantulas, scorpions, isopods, or pretty much any invertebrate, then you need to head over to TarantulaCribs.com. They recently restocked their website, and they have some new products coming out in the very near future, like larger enclosures. So whether you're looking for an arboreal or terrestrial enclosure, they have a wide variety of sizes for any stage of your invert's life. I use them a lot for my tarantulas and true spiders, and they're my favorite enclosure by far. And if you use the code TCollective10 at checkout, you'll receive 10% off your entire order. So thank you so much, Tarantula Cribs, for supporting this podcast, and for all the sponsors today. You guys are awesome, and you're integral in keeping this podcast up and running.
Okay, let it be known, I'm working hard when I ain't on the phone. This ain't a home, this ain't a phone. Grind never stopping, I'm keeping it cold. Unlocking the door with the holy key. You supposed to be this close to me, and hopefully you understand G.O.D. Maybe this cold and I'm talking like no degrees. This ain't a fluke, I seen it way before it ever happened. He gave me the view, I had to put in my time on the TV, it coming in soon. I couldn't leave it all up to a variant or an experience. You gotta get up and do what it do. So complicated, homie, it's you. Always gonna wait until you in the mood. I've been running, came out gunning, stop the fronting on your word. It's what you hear, not what you heard. I'ma hang on every verb, I'ma show you what it's worth. Every day I'm on the earth till they put me in the dirt. I'ma get into it first. Said I'ma get into it first. Until they put me in the dirt. Said I'ma get into it first. Said I'ma get into it. I can't break, that's the thing about me. I won't put these goals on freeze. I can't break, that's the thing about me. I won't put these goals on freeze.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been an exciting week. Talking to you today. Yeah, it's a small podcast, but we've had Coyote Peterson on here. I just spoke with Jay Rodriguez, who was like Emmy Award winner that keeps tarantulas. So we're talking about Judd Apatow movies and stuff like that. And I was like, I got to get off because I need to talk to Brian as well. So,
oh my gosh, that's so cool though. Yeah, and Coyote's been a friend of mine for a long, long time. He's a great guy, and you know, his success. I always say he's the bar, right? You know, he's the bar in the social media world when it comes to animals, and he does a tremendously great job, and he's been really passionate. And he, I think he was like a pretty early adapter to the things that we're trying to implement now, so he was years ahead of what we're trying to do now with just what I call intentionality, so, like for many years when we filmed our vlog, we were just kind of like filming whatever the day was going to bring, right? Okay. Now we're trying to be much more intentional with content, and thoughtful with all aspects, from thumbnails to titles to the way we, put the, people might be surprised by this, but, and thumbnails shouldn't be an afterthought. They should be a forethought, right? Mm-hmm. So now our team here that works, sometimes we'll come up with an idea and we just don't think a thumbnail will be good enough. So we don't do the idea. We just don't film it, because we're like, okay, we can't make a thumbnail that's going to be relatable enough to what we're trying to achieve. And I think that was the thing that Coyote did so well early on in his career, was he was really good about like thumbnailing and titling things that were very, very eye-catching and very, something that psychologically made you wanted to watch, And then of course his content's great too. So that helps. You can't do all those other things and then your content be terrible. So Coyote is great. I'll tell you a quick Coyote story that's pretty funny. Obviously he had his show on Animal Planet, Brave Wilderness on Animal Planet, and he lives about 3 hours away from me, and so he invited me down to the premiere of his show on Animal Planet, and so it was me, my camera guy, and another friend of mine were deciding to go. And so, it's at a movie theater, his premiere. And so we just go like, T-shirts, jeans, we show up and we were real early because I drove 3.5 hours. So I wanted to make sure I wasn't late. So we were like I think we were second or third people there, but I noticed immediately like the other people that were there, like were dressed to the hilts, just like, really, and I was like, uh-oh, what's going on here? And there was like cocktail waitresses at a movie theater. And I'm like, this is a little weird. And then more and more people showed up, and every person that showed up was like dressed to like a red carpet gala. And here we are in T-shirts and jeans, and there was about 200 people. See, I thought that the premiere was going to be like his friends and family, and then a bunch of like fans or something like that were going to go to his premiere. And it turned out that it was all like his business associates, his family, his closest relatives, people that, as a matter of fact, when he did his kind of talk before they showed the premiere of the show, so we saw the premiere like about a week before it aired, right? And so he did a little talk, and it was funny. He went through and he said, I could go to every person in this place and tell you what you've done to help me get to where we are now with this Animal Planet show. And of course, the three of us were not in that conversation. So we're the only three that were dressed like bums. And but it was a great thing. I still had a great time. I was slightly embarrassed, but it was cool.
Yeah, I was shocked how personable he was and accessible. Like it was a strange turn of events. The guy that owns Tarantula Cribs had purchased a cameo from him for his son for his birthday. And while they were talking, he was like, "Hey, would you be interested in coming on this podcast?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure, it sounds great." And sent me his information. I was like, "Well, thank you." It was a lot of fun talking to him. And he's not too far from me. He's just over in Ohio. I'm in West Virginia, and you're in Michigan, correct? Yeah, right on.
So I'm literally 3 hours from where he lives. So it's really nice. But that's cool. It's just, and like you said, he's a great guy. So I'm glad that he stayed that way with all his success.
And I think I was aware of your YouTube channel before I was aware of Coyote Peterson's, because you've been doing this for what?
I was YouTubing a bit before him, probably about 4 years before him. I was YouTubing. I remember when he came on. So he originally came on to the scene. There was a company called Revision 3. And they ultimately got bought out by Discovery Communications years later. But Revision 3 started an animal channel, and I think if I'm not mistaken, his was called like Happy Trails. And so it was a show on a YouTube channel. It wasn't Brave Wilderness. It wasn't his own channel. And I believe it was called Happy Trails, if I'm not mistaken. And it was like him just doing nature stuff. And it was not a very successful thing, even though Revision 3 was a pretty successful conglomerate of channels. They did mainly comedy, was their main thing. And but then they started this animal channel, and they had 3 or 4 tiers. And Coyote was just one of those tiers, right? The other 3 were other content creators. And then Revision 3 ended up getting bought out by Discovery Communications, and I think they just basically shut it down. To be honest, I just don't think it worked. And then he started Brave Wilderness, and it blew up, And I remember his whole like journey of the start, to when he started, he was getting, 10,000, 15,000 views a video. And then all of a sudden when he started getting hundreds of thousands and millions of views on a video, I remember the whole kind of process, and it was kind of cool to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. That was one thing I always Well, it was interesting when I had him on the podcast because there was some controversy. Some people in the tarantula hobby or exotic pet hobby, like with everybody, they don't like Coyote Peterson because they disagree with some of the stuff he does. My whole thing was like I could see where some of these people were coming from. They're 20-something-year-olds and they're very serious about the tarantula care or snake care or whatever it is, and they've got their set way of doing things, and they see somebody like that as like glorifying or dramatizing some stuff, just like clickbaity stuff. But I kind of had a different perspective because I've got a 13-year-old son that loves YouTube and loves Coyote Peterson, and it's like the thumbnail, the title, just the buildup of we're going to get bit or stung by this, this animal, like that kind of like is the hook at the beginning and the payoff at the end, but everything in between is educational. So like I see my kid get sucked into these videos to see him get hurt, but learn so much. And I think a lot of people they just don't realize that or discount that.
Yeah, and I think that's what happens. I mean, it happens with anyone that's successful. You get hatred. You're not going to have everyone, like what you're doing and stuff. But I think that, like you had mentioned, I think that, if there's this small percentage, 0.5% of what Coyote or anybody is doing for that matter is more clickbaity or attention grabbing, but yet he's reaching hundreds of millions and really billions of people with a really amazing message about animals. I think you have to forgive that, right? And I think that, and I've said this saying, I've said you can have the best message in the world, and if no one's listening, are you really making any progress, right? And so I'm a guy that believes that, number one, hey, we've all made mistakes. We've all done things that have crossed the line and done things I certainly have in my past, and I admit and I own them tremendously. And I think I've learned tremendously over the last 10 years what not to do publicly or privately for that matter. But I think that you got to think about the payoff, right? So if you really looked at, Coyote in particular, if you look at his library of, 300-400, videos, there's probably less than 10% of them are bite videos, and then the other ones are very educational, amazing videos, that are super good for everyone loving animals. So you have to ask yourself, if he didn't do those bite videos and maybe, like you said, sensationalize some of these animals, he wouldn't have reached the billions of people with this other amazing message and start to grow, in particular young, because I think that Coyote's audience is a pretty young audience. He wouldn't have, just like your son, he wouldn't have started to encourage the youth to love these animals, right?
Yeah.
So to me, I think that I'm in your camp where I think that, you don't want to step over the bounds with it, but you want to definitely get people's attention, get people's attention. And like I said, in the past, I'll be the first to admit that, especially 8, 10, 12 years ago, we stepped over the bounds way too much, and ultimately it was an interesting dynamic, right? Because like back when we were doing those types of things, everyone loved it. When my guy Chewy would get bit by snakes and stuff like that, people loved it. But then, 5-6 years later, the same people that were loving it hated it. But I could have I could have went the route where I deleted all my old stuff and started over. But I was like, I'm going to own everything I've done. And also what I hope happens is that people see wow, look at how much Brian has matured to get away from the bite scenes, to get away from the sensationalism. That doesn't mean that our titles and thumbnails aren't. And this is the other thing, weirdly enough, is that over the last probably 4 or 5 months, we've learned what I would say is the proper clickbait, right? So there were times where we would clickbait where I think we were, and people get mad about it. They're like, I can't believe it's a clickbait video. We never lied about our titles and thumbnails, but we oftentimes really took it to the edge and sometimes took it over the edge. I think now we've learned the proper clickbait, which is get people interested, but not upset about what you're doing. Have the thumbnail be really eye-catching and have the title be eye-catching, but not in a negative way. that's again, it shows you that even doing it for as long as I have, it's only been the last several months that I feel like I'm starting to learn how to do it the right way, and we still are learning. I obviously just had a call with YouTube, and we talked a lot about thumbnails and click-through rates and average view durations and stuff like that, and how we can increase those things, but with doing it in a way where you're not clickbaiting, where people are upset. And the thing you could see is like in your comment section, if people are like, man, this was clickbait, then you went too far. But if people don't ever mention it, sometimes it's interesting. Like we could do a thumbnail that is really has, like it always has to do with the main theme of but maybe I'm using a Galapagos Island tortoise when I'm talking about a leopard tortoise, because the Galapagos is so much. So in the thumbnail, it's a Galapagos, this giant tortoise. But then I'm talking about a leopard tortoise in the video, and people don't seem to mind that at all, because you're still talking about a tortoise, and you're not saying something ridiculous about him. So we're still learning, and there's listen, it's crazy to think that I've been doing it for 14, almost 15 years. And I'm still so fresh and trying to figure the whole thing out, but we do look to other creators, in the animal space like Coyote, and we look to a lot of creators outside the animal space like Mr. Beast and Preston and Air Rack and Matthew Beam and Jesser, and the list goes on and on. We look at those for inspiration, guys and girls for that matter, for inspiration.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that, because like I'm still struggling myself with the thumbnails and titles and stuff, and I feel like I hit onto a rhythm that works, and then it stops performing as well. And anytime somebody asks me for advice, which I'm not nearly, I think what you got like 3.5 million subscribers now, something like that.
It's crazy.
That
wild. I can't believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm nowhere near that, but sometimes people will still ask me questions, and I'm like, titles and thumbnails, like that's. You got to have good content as well, but people see it for just a few seconds, and you got to entice them to click and start viewing. Well, that's what I always say, right? So really the holy grail of YouTube is click-through rate, which just means that, when you talk about click-through rate, the only thing that you can get someone to click on is thumbnails and titles, right? There's nothing else. There's nothing else to it. It doesn't matter how good the video is or how bad the video is. If people don't click on it, they won't know. And then the second side of that holy grail is watch time, which is linked to average view duration, right? So if you have a 10-minute video and people watch 7 minutes, you've got a 7-minute watch time. And if you do that 100,000 times, you've got 700,000 minutes, right? So, but before you get to the watch time and average view duration, you have to have the click-through rate, so you have to get people to click. And I can get really nerdy with this stuff. So I'm going to try not to as best I can. But real simply, if you're doing YouTube and you can go on your analytics, you want to be as close to that 10+% click-through rate as you possibly can, right? If you can get 10+%, ideally, if you can get 12 or 15%, you're really crushing it. I would say the average YouTuber, their click-through rate's under 5%. They're 3 to 5%. The decent YouTubers are 10%. The great YouTubers are 15+%. And that has everything to do with titling and thumbnailing. And then you always want your average view duration, or it to be about 60+%. If you can keep it at 60+%, you're doing real well. So if you can get that 10, 12% click through and your average view duration is 60%, you're going to be in the algorithm of YouTube, and they're going to serve you to people, and that's how you succeed. So, but those aren't easy things to do. Those are, I could throw out numbers and people go, oh, I get it. But the truth is that those are very hard numbers to achieve. The best in the business would be, Jimmy at Mr. Beast, and his average view durations hovers around 70%, so that's like the best you can get is 70%. And so when you're 55, 60%, you're already flirting with the top dogs, and it's a difficult thing to do, but click-through rate is everything, and title and thumbnails is what it's about. Yeah, I had one video on trapdoor spiders I released a couple years ago, and a lot of people got upset because they were telling me it was clickbait, because the thumbnail, I had taken a picture. It's a very rare trapdoor spider, so you don't really, in any trapdoor spider, you don't see them much because they're always underground. But I was unboxing it, had like, the fancy macro flash, and just the way the lights reflected off of its exoskeleton gave it this like light blue color. But when you're recording the video, you don't have that type of light angles. So it was more of a grayish color. Yeah. So in the thumbnail was this bright blue spider, and people were clicking on it to watch it, and they see it, on the video, and they're like, that's not the same spider. I'm like, well, it is. I didn't adjust the color. It just was, it's just the way that exoskeleton reflects light. So I always got to be careful about that. I don't want to like mislead people. But
weird when you oversaturate colors, which is weird. Mm-hmm. But to me, like I said, I again, everyone has different views, and I'm not saying that people are wrong or right by being upset about things. I'm just saying that I've never watched one YouTube video and been upset that the title was, or some, listen, I'm a huge Elon Musk fan, right? And there's this YouTube channel called the Elon Musk Zone. And I like every title and thumbnail isn't even what the video, he'll be like, Elon just backed out of the deal at Twitter. And then you watch the video and he didn't back out of the deal at Twitter. You know what I mean? It's like, like blatant clickbait. I mean, just like every single, like Elon Musk just solved the problem of energy you won't believe. And you watch it has nothing to do with energy. And I don't even get upset about that. I'm just like, whatever. I mean, they're just trying to get clicks and they're just trying to get things. But some people really get upset, and I'm like, okay, I don't get it, but good for them. Like, I guess you got to be angry at somebody for something.
People love to get angry on the internet. That's for sure. Yeah.
And that's the thing. It doesn't bother me these days. I realize I put myself out there, and not everyone's going to like me, and not everyone's going to agree with what I do. But I think for people, sometimes people get over crazy with with things, and but thankfully these days, I don't get much negativity these days. I mean, get a little bit, but. The negativity I do get, it doesn't bother me at all. I've learned to kind of just move past that. I have a message I believe in. I work harder than anyone I've ever met. As many hours and time and energy, and in every dime that I make on every business I run, which I run several businesses, goes into educating people and growing my reptile soup. That's it, period. I don't put money into my anything. Like, I don't buy fancy stuff. I don't have hobbies. I don't, every penny I make, and I make a lot of money. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say I make a lot of money. But every penny of it goes right back into the animals, 100%. Like, you'll never find me. I mean, I've got a couple bracelets on here. I've got I've got Gatorland, and all kinds of stuff. That's it. No jewelry. I mean, it's like, I don't spend money on myself ever. And my family, thankfully, is the same way. They support me, and they know that our financial success is based on me just trying to build, a place where people can go and become educated and entertained. And that's really what Animalcon USA is kind of about as well. Is this has been something that's been on my mind for 3 or 4 years that I've wanted to do. And then, of course, COVID hit, and it kind of sidelined. You don't want to do conventions during COVID. And not that COVID's gone, but I think people have mostly moved on, said, okay, we're done. We don't mind getting together. And but it's about, bringing people like yourself and like-minded people together so that, our supporters, fans, whatever you want to call them, can come, meet, hang out, listen to, be a part of, and ultimately just spread the love of animals and the love of what we every day. I mean, as well as I do that, you probably don't have much of a life, because all you're doing is working on animals and getting people excited about stuff. And you're not taking, 2-week vacations like the regular world. And that's I want everyone to understand how amazing these animals are. And listen, tarantulas are a great example, right? I was terrified of tarantulas just 5 years ago. I mean, literally, I could not hardly look at one, and now I'm obsessed with them. I think they're amazing. I mean, I still get freaked out by the fast, scary ones, but like OBTs or something like that, they freak me out a little bit. But when it comes to especially the Brazilian blacks and the red knees and the curly hairs. And I mean, I literally am obsessed by them. And even the stuff like the Goody Sapphires, I may never hold one, but I love to watch it. I mean, it's so cool. So that's my point, is that, people are so afraid of snakes and spiders. And I'm living proof that you can get over a massive fear. I mean, a complete arachnophobia, and not only get over that fear, but become an actual tarantula lover. And I'm really looking forward to this next iteration of the expansion of our zoo, where I can do a larger bug wall and really. I've got some ideas I won't share that I think are going to be really cool, so that people will be really excited about when they come see us. So, but that's what it's about. Just in Animalcon's the same thing. It's just to me, it's the dream, not to mention, I think it's going to be really cool for creators like you and myself to just hang out with each other. You know what I mean? Like, all get together. And I think, a lot of my collaborations in the YouTube world, with big creators came from VidCon and playlists, which are YouTube conventions. And I think that the same thing will happen at Animalcon. And what I've said is that I think it's going to be really cool to next year be seeing people that met at our event that are now putting out videos together and creating collaborations. And it's going to be really special.
I'm really excited about Animalcon, and I think it's a very cool thing that you've put together. And I know, at least in the arachnid community, it's something that we've kind of like, wouldn't it be nice if somebody did this, but like never had the resources or the know-how to do it. So when I was talking to you and you mentioned it, I was excited, and my friends in the YouTube community, at least as far as like tarantulas and inverts, were very stoked. But just for the people listening that maybe aren't even aware of it yet, can you just kind of explain what Animalcon is, when it is, where it is, all that kind of stuff?
Absolutely, and I appreciate it. So Animalcon USA is, and you can go to animalconusa.com. It's basically an event where creators, we have close to 100 creators right now, from reptiles, birds, invertebrates. We didn't do dog and cat this year. It's something we may add next year, but we didn't do it. We wanted to keep it a little bit more exotic this year. I think we have over 160 million combined outreach between all our creators. So we've got the top dogs in all those worlds. I mean, the tarantula and invert community has been so supportive of us. So Animalcon is going to happen the last weekend, the 26th, 27th, 28th of August. It's going to be in Orlando, a place called the Crebe Royale, and all of these creators, your favorite creators that you've watched, on YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, television as well. We've got Forrest Galante from Animal Planet. We got Brett from the show Tanked from Animal Planet coming. And we're working on a couple other people as well that might be there. And we're adding more people to the list literally every single day. More people we're adding to the list of creators. And so, people that are fans of those people or supporters of those people can come down to Orlando. There's going to be panels where it's going to be like, say there'll be 5 invertebrate creators on one panel, and they're going to be talking about what it's like to either keep invertebrates or maybe be a social media influencer as invertebrate keeper, and then there'll be panels every day from morning till night. They'll actually every hour there'll be 5 different panels going on in 5 different rooms. So from like maybe small panels they'll be really intimate with like 50 people, and all the way up to the main stage where that'll have over 1,000 chairs in it, where there'll be Q&As where the same type of thing, 5-6 people of like-minded influence, with answering questions from the audience. There'll also be meetups, where like if you want to meet your favorite creator, you can actually have a meetup where you'll get a time to take a picture or get an autograph, whatever the case may be. On top of that, there'll be opportunities not only for some VIP ticket holders, but also the creators to have VIP after parties. We've got a Friday night after party, we've got a Saturday night after party. Sunday night, we're actually going to Gatorland, which is an amazing place if you haven't been. It'll be closed down, so it'll be just for us, So Animalcon has been a dream of mine for years, and again, it's really based on playlists and VidCon, which are the YouTube conventions. But the thing is, I've been to VidCon and Playlist, been a creator many times for years and years. And there's literally, I'd go there, there'd be 4 animal creators. There's 200 creators, but there's 4 animal creators, and that's a whole bunch. I thought, if we put this event on with just animal creators, how cool would that be? And listen, I'm a fan of almost every single person. Well, really, I should say every person that we've invited and that is accepted, I'm a fan of too. I've watched your stuff. I've watched the Dark Den stuff. I've watched, the list has gone on, over the years. And so I'm excited to meet all the people that are coming and hang out with them. And I'm a YouTuber, so, I can imagine whether it's myself or other, reptile YouTubers in the past or fish YouTubers I know, they'll go to an event like Aquashella, let's say, and Joey from King of DIY will be like the guest, for the day or whatever. And hundreds and hundreds of people have come to meet Joey from King of DIY, but they're only meeting him, Could you imagine that times 100, you don't have to just say like, hey, I'm just going to meet Richard. I'm going to meet Richard. I'm going to meet all these other people that I've been following forever. And it's I can't, if you can't tell, I'm so excited, I'm so excited. Don't get me wrong. I'm nervous as heck, we committed a lot, this is like it's either going to succeed or it's going to fail. And I'm going to lose a lot of money, because there's no, the way we had to do it there was no halfway. There's no like, we're going to, although I will say we're starting smaller this year than hopefully next year will be. Hopefully next year we can double the size of the event, across the board. But that being said, I'm on the hook for $300,000 is what I'm on the hook for. So if this thing doesn't go down, I lose $300,000, and that's it's a scary thing. But there's a saying that says scared money don't make money, right? And I'm not really looking to make money on this, and I don't know if I will make money on it. Quite frankly, if I could break even, I'd be real happy. I'd be real happy just to break even and put on an event that everyone's going to talk about all year long,
Yeah. When you look at the attendance of like NARBC, those kind of reptile conventions, they're getting thousands of people. People are lined up. I know sometimes when I go to Tinley Park, there's people all the way down that corridor and double back around just to get in to buy some, snakes or tarantulas or whatever. So I think, and I don't even think you mentioned the resort that it's at is pretty freaking amazing. I was looking at it online. It was like the pools and the playground and the jacuzzi and all. They got a lot of amenities there, and it just looks beautiful. Like a beautiful.
And the rooms are really amazing too. I've stayed there a handful of times. And really, what happened was Playlist, like I had talked about, the YouTube convention started at the Creep Royale. So that's how I learned about the Creep Royale, is that, way back in the day, probably 8-9 years ago, Playlist was there. They've now outgrown it and moved just about 2 miles down the street to the World's Orlando Center. But, the rooms are really beautiful. Listen, Orlando's not cheap no matter what, but if you're staying in a Holiday Inn in Orlando, you're going to be spending $160, $170 for a night. That's the way it is. So it was interesting when we first started negotiating with the hotel. The room rate is usually $229 to $249 a night. And so we said, hey, listen, we've got to negotiate that down. Our people can't pay $200 and something a night to come stay at the hotel. We have to get it cheaper. And I think that our original deal with them was that they would go down to $189 a night. And that was the lowest they would go. And we just kept hammering them and saying, we need better. And we, again, it's not cheap, but we got them down to $159, which again, I know I go to Orlando a lot. Literally, there is no hotel in Orlando unless you're staying at a Roach motel or something like that. That's under $150 a night. You're going to always pay $150 to $200 a night. So we got them down to the lowest possible rate that like you would normally stay in a kind of a crappy hotel for $150 a night. We got them down to that rate. And it's a beautiful, every room has got, it's either a king bed or queens, but it's got a living room attached to it, beautiful bathrooms. I mean, it's really nice. And the resort itself, like you said, is really incredible for the nightlife. And it's going to be really fun for people to just be hanging out by the pool and the jacuzzi and the waterfall and all the other things, the amenities. I mean, it has a game room in it, for arcades. It's got, pool tables and ping pong tables. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. I think that it's going to be a blast to have not only probably by the time we launch, I would imagine probably close to 150 creators. But then to have thousands of supporters of all of us together, it's going to be wild. It's going to be crazy. Yeah. In my head, I just think of that, like walking around the pool area with just nothing but animal people, just like everywhere, and it's going to be really exciting. So I have no doubt it's going to happen. It's going to do well. Now I think my whole purpose in life is to, over the next 3 months, is to get other people to know it's there. So now that the creators all know. Now we've got two things. Number one, I've got to promote, but also all the creators have to promote. Like, hey, I'm going to be there. Come visit me, And as long as I can get all the creators and their following knows, because we only have 4,000 tickets, by the way, and that's sold out. So that's it. It's done. Like that. Once 4,000 tickets sell, there's no more available. And like you said, to give you an idea, the NARBC, albeit cheaper to get in, does over twice the number of people. So that's just a reptile show to go buy reptiles. That's not meeting all these amazing people and all the amenities that are going to go along with it. Yeah.
I know I'm super stoked because there's a lot of, like Petco from Dark Den, Adam from Wiccan's Wicked Reptiles, Ants Canada, a lot of these guys that I've talked to that are planning on coming, that I've talked through like DMs for months or years, but never have met in person, so I'm really excited to, finally meet these people face to face. And
I was
so many other creators.
I'm excited about everyone, but I was really personally excited about Mike from Ants Canada. I've been a fan of Ants Canada for 10 years or whatever it's been. And I was a little surprised because, of course, Ants Canada isn't from Canada. He lives in the Philippines, So the fact that he was willing, both of them were willing to fly over for the show was astonishing. And I was so grateful and happy to them, because he had said they had never done a meetup before, ever. So he's like, this is the first time that people can come and meet them. And that's going to be pretty special. And again, I'm a huge fan of all their stuff. I love ants. And as a matter of fact, I have been, when we do this expansion for the reptiles, zoo and aquarium that we're in the process of working on now, I want to do a huge ant display, and it's just something I didn't have space for where I'm at now. So, and as a matter of fact, Mike told me he would help me out with getting that together and doing some. So I've always been, like since I was a kid, I was afraid of spiders, but I loved ants, So it's going to be pretty cool to meet those guys.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that because I got a little jealous because I saw on Wiccan's Wicked Reptiles, he was at your facility filming some and got to meet you and hang out with you and stuff like that. And so I was curious, how many people, how many YouTubers do you invite or stop by your facility to, make videos with you and stuff like that?
Listen, I'm always open. If you want to come hang out, come hang out. So I don't turn anybody down to come visit. I love showing people around. It's like, it's like when you work hard at building something, and this is what I've told people is that where I'm at now and where I'm going with our expansion is still the same thing, which is I'm building a place that the little me version of me, little Brian, when I was 5 years old, wanted to go to. That's what I've done. I said when I built the Reptarium that I wanted to have Rainforest Cafe meets the Reptile Zoo. So when you walk in, it's like you feel like you're in an exhibit as soon as you walk through the door. There's trees. There's, the walls are rocked out. I mean, it's not like the typical reptile zoo. And now that we've learned over the last few years, what we've learned, we're ready to take it to the next level, and do a bigger reptile, double the size of the reptile zoo. then double that for an aquarium, and then add again, I've loved, fish, and I've loved reptiles my whole life, but I've also loved dinosaurs. So we're going to have an archaeological, what we call the dig site, so that, kids can come in and actually like sift through, for fool's gold. They can, take their little brushes and look for fossils that are in the sand and all this type of stuff. So I continue to do that. But that being said, I love people to visit. I'm creating something that I'm so happy and so proud of, that, any YouTuber can always come. I don't think I've ever turned a YouTuber down. And Adam, by the way, is amazing. He's such a good dude. It's funny because, I didn't know, I watched his stuff a long time. And I didn't realize he's a funny dude, man. He did stand-up comedy, so like, he's a funny guy. He's just a super sweetheart. And we had a great time when he was here. And I can't wait to hang out with him again down at Animalcon USA. And you'll love him too, because he's a good dude, man.
Yeah. I think he's opening for. He told me he's opening for Tim Meadows this weekend or something like that at a comedy club. Yeah, I was like, man, that's
awesome. Yeah, it's super cool, and I love that. And he's really funny, but no, always open invite, not only to you, but anyone for that matter. It's an open invite. If you ever get up here, please come visit me. I never turn anyone away. I love the, just to show and not only show off and share the experience of what we're doing here, but also, I can learn too, because a lot of times when people come, they may give me ideas like, man, this would be really cool if you did this. And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. That's a great idea. So it's beneficial for me to have people around as well. So, so like I said, I can't ever remember, it's weird, obviously for a couple years, we didn't have very many, we had lots of like local, and people traveled from all over the country to come visit, but not necessarily YouTubers and stuff like that. Because of COVID, people were a little bit more restrained. Now, this year, since January, it seems like it's rare that I don't have company. Like, I have company almost every single week. I have company coming from out of town and hanging out with me, whether they're YouTubers or social media people or just friends of mine that are fellow reptile breeders or whatever the case is. It feels like we're back to pre-COVID when it comes to visitors. And I know like even Lori says it's like, it just seems like she's like, my calendar's just full constantly. It's like, oh, well, Thursday I got company here. Friday got this person coming in. Friday I've got this person coming in. But I love it. It's awesome to be able to share it. It really is.
Yeah. Maybe it's just my perception, but I think that, look at your channel and your reach and, the amount of subscribers you have. And it was always like, man, it'd be really cool to go visit, but I would have felt really weird bringing a camera with me when I came. No, so it's cool to hear you say that.
Oh my gosh, no. The thing. I think the one thing that when I hear about myself, like if I ever hear something negative, the one thing that I always am the most surprised about is if someone says like, "Oh, he's so arrogant," because I'll be like, what? Like anyone that knows me, like that spends 10 minutes with me. Like, listen, everyone has ego. From the lowest ego to the highest ego, but every time I achieve, like we just hit 800,000 followers on Instagram today, and that humbles me. Like every time we reach a milestone, it's so humbling to think like, holy cow. And I think it's in my makeup to be that way. Like I think that in a weird way, I think that the larger we get on social, the more humble I become. Like the more appreciative I become, because this is the thing, I've been afforded such an amazing opportunity in life to do all the things I do because of my success on social. It started initially, I worked with reptiles for 20 something years before I did social at all. There wasn't even such a thing as Facebook or YouTube, and I did reptiles. So it wasn't like I started doing reptiles because I wanted to be, big on YouTube, because YouTube hadn't been born for 20 years. The internet wasn't even around when I started. For many years. So I've always loved the animal side, but But since the social side has done, so well, it's changed my life, on all kinds of different levels. I couldn't have opened up the Reptile Zoo if it wasn't for the money we made on social. I couldn't be doing a $4 million expansion, that we're working on right now if it wasn't for the social aspect that I have. So I'm very blessed, but that means that. I think I always tell people, I think people go one of two ways. The more successful you get either more arrogant or more humble. That's the two ways. And for me, I don't understand the arrogant side. And listen, I work with a lot of big YouTubers that aren't reptile people, are just big YouTubers. And some of them are unbelievably arrogant. I mean, like ridiculously arrogant. And a lot of them are unbelievably humble. And I look at the arrogant people and I think, like, how can you do this? And I also think, like, you realize it can be stripped away from you in a second. You know what I mean? Like, you could be the biggest on a platform and one mishap, one thing you do wrong and you lose it all, and so you got to, like, really, like, number one, be super appreciative of where you are, no matter where you are. And you may find it interesting, and I hope this doesn't come off arrogant. I think we're just starting. I really do. I think that especially with our new kind of lease on how to do things, like we're bringing on more people to the team. We're working harder on all kinds of stuff. These are I think that the biggest days are ahead. I really do. I mean, Coyote, you're in my crosshairs, buddy. 20 million subs, man. Here we come. No, listen, and it's funny because I joke about, like the crosshairs thing. I think that this is the other mistake that I think a lot of social people make, is that they think if someone else is succeeding, they're failing, and I don't believe that at all. I think that all ships rise with the tide. And I want to see, this is the thing. I love that Coyote has 20 million or 19.8 million followers, because that means that there's potential for me to have 19.8 million followers. If he didn't pave the way, maybe I wouldn't be able to get there. And maybe we can get to 30 million followers, and then the next guy can get to 40 million followers. And, so like, just because one person is succeeding doesn't mean we aren't all succeeding, so I'm a rah-rah guy for everybody. I want everyone to succeed. And that's why I share, listen, I spend a lot of money and a lot of time learning how to do what I do, like, I mean, I'll sometimes spend $10,000 on a course, to a YouTube course. And then after I'm done, I'll talk to everyone about what I learned for free. You know what I mean? It's like, I think that, it's good that everyone is succeeding. It only makes our hobby. And ultimately the end goal isn't about, like I said, money isn't the goal for me at all. The only money I make is just to do more things to educate people and do more with the zoo. But my point is that I want to, we all just want to educate people about animals and get people to love the animals that we love so dearly. So it would be really, to me, it's a travesty, and it's against what we believe in if we're wishing our competitors to not do well. Right? Because we should be wishing all our competitors to do well, because that means more people love the animals that we love, and that's a win.
I agree 100%. And I didn't mean to imply that I thought you were arrogant. Like, that wasn't what I was going for. It was more like, I was like, it was more like you just seemed unobtainable, or something, if that makes sense. Like, it'd be rude to walk into your place with a camera.
And I didn't take it that way. But like I said, you'll see that. Like, when you come visit me or we hang out at Animalcon, you'll see, like, I'm the most approachable guy in the world, because I don't look at myself. Maybe it's a pathology of mine. Like, I don't look at myself as successful at all, period. Like, I think that, like, it's, like I said, it's probably a psychological thing that I have wrong with me. But, like, I look at, like, it's like, I don't look at what I've achieved as anything. Like, I think that, like, it's like I'm almost disappointed at like that I should be further than I am. And so I don't look at myself as, like, better than anyone ever. And I think that everyone, you got to remember, I'm learning the majority of my success from 18 and 19-year-olds. and that's the truth, like social media, if you're not listening to 18 and 19-year-olds, you're not succeeding, and I'm 52 years old, and it's hard for a 52-year-old person to say, oh, I'm going to look towards an 18-year-old and take my learning from that person. But to do that, you have to be extremely approachable and humble and not like, oh, I'm better than anybody. So again, I think that it's, I get where you're going though, because when the first time I worked with like Jimmy from Mr. Beast, for instance, I mean, this is a guy that has almost 100 million subscribers, the largest guy on YouTube by far. It's not necessarily in subscribers, but views wise, he's the largest earning channel on YouTube. And the first time you meet him, there is a little bit of that, like, oh man, is this guy going to be like a jerk or is he going to be nice? You know what I mean? And thankfully, he's a sweetheart. He's a super nice guy, super, unbelievably genuine in all ways. But I've been the other way too, right, Richard? I've met guys that they always say don't meet your heroes, right? Because you'll be disappointed.
Yeah.
But I don't want anyone to ever be disappointed in me, and it goes back to, I think that I remember, Bill Clinton saying this, and again, this isn't like, I hope no one ever takes what I say from an arrogant. I'm just reciting things that always were impactful for me, right? And I remember Bill Clinton saying, like, when I meet somebody, it might only be 30 seconds of my life, but it may be something to that person that they'll remember the rest of their life. You know what I mean? So he took that mentality where every person he met, he acted like that was going to be the most important moment of their life, and so I think that's really important to keep in context, whether you're meeting a 12-year-old kid that loves your channel or you're meeting a peer like you and me. It's like, you've got to be on that level. You can't ever look down on people. You've got to always be like, hey, I'm on the same level as you all the time. And if you don't, you're going to eventually, fail, a lot, I think, and that goes back to another story I had with Jack Hanna. Do you remember Jack Hanna?
Yeah.
It's Jungle Jack Hanna. Yeah. So I used to do like the Reptiles parts of his show when he did live shows. And so when he came to town, like I would show up with Reptiles and he would do like 4 events in a row of about 1,500 people. There'd be about 1,500 people in an event. And he would do like 4 of them back to back to back with like an hour in between or something like that. And I remember it was me and like some zookeepers from the Columbus Zoo, which were friends of mine. And we would be backstage, like hanging out, making sure, watering the animals, taking care of all this stuff. And Jack would, like, at the end of the show, he would go out and sit at the lobby and like take pictures and sign autographs for the hour. And so we would like sometimes even get a break where we're like, having some food or something like that. And Jack's out there, I mean, like from the first show's at noon, the last show doesn't end until 7. And he's never backstage. He's like, he does the show and then he's out there signing autographs, taking pictures. And I remember at the end of the day, he finally sat down for food and we're eating dinner. And this is a guy that has obviously reached the apex of success at his stage, at least, being on Dave Letterman 100 times. And like everyone knew who Jack Hanna was for many decades, and I remember talking to him afterwards going, geez, Jack, you just never stop, whatever. And he said, listen to me, Brian. He said, every one of those people out there deserve my time. He goes, because if every single one of those people had something to do with where I am today. He said, if I don't have them, I don't have anything. And he goes, and the least I can do is give them all a little bit of my time. And that was a really impactful thing when I was probably in my, early 30s when that happened, and really not even doing YouTube. I didn't do any, any social at all at the time. But it always stuck with me as I was growing, like that statement of like, that 3.5 million subscribers I have, every single one of those people is why I get to live my dream, right? Without that, I wouldn't be living my dream. And that's just a fact. And if you don't have that mentality, you're going to fail.
I would agree. I know it was before I even hit 100,000 subscribers. I did the first official meetup. Went to Virginia Beach to the Fear Not Tarantula's store. She was doing a grand opening. And so, I mean, it was kind of a mix of people wanting to go there because she had some really good sales, but it was also like, hey, I'm going to be there hanging out, meeting people and stuff like that. And I was surprised because like she called me. I was coming, like we stayed at a hotel on the beach. She's over on the mainland, so I had to like come across the intercoastal there. And she called me on the way. I was like, "You need to park in the back." And I was like, "Why?" She's like, "There's a line of people all the way down the strip mall to get in." I was like, "No way!" I mean, they weren't all there to see me. Some of them, like I said, they just wanted to get good deals on tarantulas. But it was a humbling experience. It was just like, oh wow, I almost thought it was going to be a flop. Like there may be a couple dozen people show up. I wasn't expecting hundreds and hundreds of people to show up. So that's why I think Animalcon is going to be a huge success, because there's so many different creators there that a lot of them have independent fan bases.
And that's what I'm saying, weirdly enough, we have people that have, millions and millions of followers. But I think that there's some people on that list that have 25, 30,000 followers, but they have devout followers, right? Maybe they're only going to bring 20, 30 people, but those 20, 30 people are going to be really hyped to meet that person. You know what I mean? And so that's why I don't look at like creators as like, oh, I got to just pay attention to the guys that have millions of followers. I think everyone brings something else to the table. And I agree with you. It's funny. I've done a handful of meetups over the years, and every single time I'm convinced no one's showing up. I'm convinced of it. I'm convinced. I remember I did a meetup at Prehistorics a few years back before COVID. And I was in California and LA at the time. And he was like, hey, we should do a meetup. And this was before Jay kind of blew up, because now Jay is obviously, got a ginormous following. And so my following was much bigger than his at the time. And he was like, yeah, we should do a meetup at my place. And I was like, sure, let's do it. And I like shouted it out on the video, and I shouted it out on, Twitter and Instagram. And I remember that day being so nervous because I'm thinking like, gosh, what if I show up and there's like 4 people there, that's it, and it turned out to be an amazing event. Tons of people showed up, and it turned out to be really, really good. But that's every single one. And that's kind of how, honestly, that's my mentality about Animalcon now. It's like, I'm scared, I'm confident, but I'm also a little frightened, because I'm like, but this is the thing, like I said, going back to the first thing is, like I said, as long as you and every other creator lets their people know, it's going to be a huge success. And huge success. Next year, we'll do it even bigger and better. And we'll learn from our mistakes. That's why one of the things I did bring Brian Potter and Bob Ashley on as my partners for this. They run the NARBC shows. So they've been running conventions for 25 years. I tell people all the time, like, I don't know how to run a convention. I just had an idea. I just had a vision to like, hey, let's get all the animal people in one spot, and then beyond that, it's like I had to figure out what to do from there. And so they've really done so I've done the work of like getting creators online, the promotion, the idea of what it's going to look like. And their job is to work with the hotel, work with the vendors, work with, all the little nuts and bolts that we need to have, So hopefully together.
There was something else I was kind of curious about. When I try to explain it to people, I kind of like, it's kind of like a Comic-Con, but for animal YouTubers or animal creators. And one thing that people ask almost immediately after are there going to be vendors there selling, anything related to animals, or, like, what does that situation look like?
Yeah, there'll definitely be vendors. Not a ton of vendors, but there will be vendors that will, there'll certainly be merch stuff, like merch for the, our creators and stuff like that. But there'll also be like the Zoom Eds of the world. You talked about Tarantula Cribs earlier. We've been talking with him about potentially having something. There won't be live animal sales, but there will be definitely brands that are represented there that have booths that are more. I mean, some stuff will be for sale for sure. Besides merch, merch is definitely going to be for sale, but more it's going to be like exposure, right? So say Zoom Ed, for instance. Zoom Ed probably won't be selling stuff there, but they might be giving some stuff away. and they might be, just like, look at, we're Zoom Ed and we're sponsoring the show and we're going to have a booth here and so like that. But I mean, I don't know how many, that goes back really to my partners more than me about how many booths are going to actually be there. I'm going to assume there's going to be 50-ish booths that'll be there between merch booths and company booths, somewhere in that line. And so this is another thing that, it's a living and breathing thing, right? And what I mean by that is that we're thinking about having certain tables that maybe we will have a tarantula table just for display, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So people can go look at animals. Maybe we'll have a snake or two display so people can look at snakes. But none of it's going to be for sale. It's just going to be for looks and stuff like that. Because I know that there was a ball python guy that inquired about just the same thing. Like, hey, can I bring a table of ball pythons? None of them for sale, just to promote ball pythons in my business. And I think we're going to allow that to happen. And I'll probably do the same thing. Like I know there's one of our creators is Toucan TV and Bird Tricks, which are both bird people, obviously. And they want to bring some birds as well, So we're going to probably have some animals there for people to just meet, maybe take pictures with, that type of thing. Beyond that, but nothing major like no animals for sale, and nothing major for sale there besides merch.
So kind of like so kind of like a trade show or something, where it's just a lot of businesses, or there'll be a lot of displays and exhibitions and stuff like that, but nothing really for sale, at least as far as animals and stuff.
And we're going to encourage. Yeah, and we'll encourage the brands to have like free stuff that they give away to people as well. That's what we're going to encourage, so that people are getting trinkets and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. Now, this is probably I don't know if you've been asked this question, but this is always something I think about before I do something like this. Like, what's the food situation going to be there?
So good news is a couple different things. There'll be, food at the hotel. There's some restaurants at the hotel so people can meet, as far as our creators go and stuff like that. And we'll see if we can maybe even pull in like a food truck or two. We've thought about that and, talking with the hotel about that. As far as creators go, and I'm sorry for the people that are attending to hear this, because they're probably like, oh, that sucks. But the creators actually, there's going to be food and drink for everybody for free the whole weekend. So, so what we have, and I'm sorry for the non-creators to hear this, but there'll be 5 different rooms for creators, 4 hospitality rooms, and 1 green room. In those rooms will be brands that are represented to where they'll have a room that's set up, let's say Jelly Smack, for instance, which is a social company, social media company. It sounds like they're going to be one of our sponsors. And so what they'll do is they'll have a cool thing. They told me they want pictures of the room because they've been bringing this like big, like front end loader type of, like almost like a game where you get on it and you like can with the front end loader, you pick stuff up and you move it around. It's like a game for people. That'll be in the creator lounge, their creator lounge. And what they want is they want to just talk to creators and say, hey, Jelly Smack offers this. And I personally work with Jelly Smack. And basically what happens is Jelly Smack takes my YouTube content and puts it on Facebook for me. So I don't do my Facebook content. They do my Facebook content for me. And so they'll be there to talk with creators and be like, hey, you may want to join Jelly Smack and we can help you grow your Facebook following or your Instagram following or whatever they may want to work with you with. And in those hospitality rooms, there'll be food, drink, free stuff that they're going to be giving away, sweatshirts and hats and so on like that for creators. So unfortunately, that's not going to be for the attendees, but we'll have stuff we'll be giving the attendees away too. Again, we want to have as many of the brands that do set up trade booths have free stuff for people so that they can take trinkets home and they'll also be able to not only buy merch from Animalcon itself, but also if our creators have merch for sale, we'll allow them to have booths for merch for stuff too. Like I have my company's Reptile Army. So Reptile Army will have a booth with a bunch of merch available. Cool. So it'll be that.
Yeah.
But there'll be food for normal people as well. They just have to buy it.
Right. Yeah. I was looking at the tickets and, I was seeing that you could buy like a single day pass or a multi-day pass. There was a bunch of different like ticket levels. And I was thinking about, some of the people who said they were definitely like, if I was going to be there, Tarantula Haven's going to be there, Dark Den, Ants Canada. They're like, yeah, we're definitely going to go to that. And we're going to be there all weekend. We're really excited. And I was just like, in my mind, I was like, well, are they going to be, like if they're at that event from open to close, going to all the panels and all that kind of stuff, like, are you going to have a bunch of food trucks there for people to eat? Or is it just going to be, because I don't know what the resort has as far as like restaurants and stuff. So, I mean, I'm kind of ignorant to it, but.
I think the resort has 4 restaurants as well as like a little cafe area where you can buy like snacks and stuff like that. And then, like you said, I think we're going to probably more than likely have a lineup of food trucks as well, just for like cheaper type of food and stuff like that, where you don't have to sit down and eat and so on like that. But yeah, it has the amenity. I mean, that's the thing that's nice about the resort is it has the amenities for people. I mean, weirdly enough, I've stayed there, like I said, probably a half dozen times over the last few years. And there are people that literally like will just be there for 3 or 4 days, never leave the resort. Like that's their vacation, they just go to the resort. They just hang out at the resort all the time. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Not to mention, I mean, it's in a very populated area right outside the parking lot. Within a mile, there's all kinds of food, pizza, you name it, and everything else. So it's nice because it's like maybe, I think it's maybe 5 minutes away from International Drive, which is like the big, like strip in Orlando that has everything on it. So it's pretty, the location's really nice for people that are going to hang out for the whole weekend. And we hope that people do hang out the whole weekend. Obviously the business day, which will be Friday, will be a limited number. I think there's only like 400 tickets available for that day. Because so Friday will be a much more, for me, Friday is more of like people that want to do what we do. Like maybe they're an animal lover or they're whatever, and they want to be an influencer. They want to do a YouTube channel. They want to make a business out of it. That's what Industry Day is more about. It's not as much about like, hey, I'm going to meet my favorite creator. It's more about like, okay, well, how do I do YouTube? What editing equipment do I use? What do you do when you're thinking of ideas or whatever the case is? And it's going to be much more industry based. That's why we kept it a very small number of people as opposed to having a ginormous number of people that'll be Friday or Saturday. But we have the ability, you can buy the whole Friday, Saturday, Sunday passes, the entire weekend passes. But most of the passes will be Saturday, Sunday.
Very cool.
Yeah,
I know that might have been a strange question, but I know one of the things I get most frustrated about going to, especially the Tinley Park in ARBC, is that there's restaurants around there, but sometimes I'm stuck behind a booth and I can't leave, so I can only eat at that little snack stand they have there, and it's like, I hope there's some better food options than some of these conventions. I guess.
And even like I said, I think there's 4 restaurants on the thing. Like one's like burger type thing, but you can go to there's one that's like a nice steakhouse. Like, like really nice steakhouse. I've eaten there before. Not exactly the cheapest place, the steakhouse one, but it's got great food. So it just depends on what you want to do, So, and they do so many conventions there. They're pretty much, used to that. And then we have like, so what ends up happening, I mean, it just depends again on how many tickets are sold, how many hotel rooms get booked, all this other stuff, depending on, because we have like a food budget, that we have to spend. And I mean, it's a lot. I mean, it's like $80,000. We have to literally give them $80,000 for food and beverage. So obviously, first and foremost, we're going to feed the creators and do all that type of stuff. Beyond that, we may have some free food and beverage to everybody. It just depends. We have to absorb that. There's like, if we don't spend it, we have to give them the money. You know what I mean? So I'd rather give people food, but that's still yet to be determined. And we're just now starting to work on the early stages of scheduling, like how it's all going to work out. Again, you can't do like the full-on schedule because we're getting new creators every day, right? So at some point, so what we'll probably put out on the website in the next week or so will be the actual schedule of events, but not who's on those events yet. Because who's on those events probably won't happen until about a month before the actual event. So probably the end of July is when we'll reach the actual lineup, like this is how it is. And then the same thing goes, it'll probably be the end of probably early July, we'll start to introduce meetups. Who's going to do meetups, and then you can, start booking meetups and stuff like that. And not every creator is going to do meetups. I talked to a creator the other day that has about 2.5 million followers on YouTube. And he's like, yeah, I'm in, I'm coming for sure. He goes, but I don't want to do a meetup. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. No worries, man. I mean, if you don't want to do a meetup, you don't have to do a meetup, He's like, I want to just come and hang out with the other creators and have a good time. I'm like, that's completely fine. He goes, I'll do a few panels. He goes, I'd love to be on a few panels. He goes, I just don't have any interest in doing a meetup. I'm like, no one's forcing you to do a meetup, but the people that want to do a meetup will do a meetup, and those will get scheduled out as we get closer, because that'll be like the last thing that happens. And what happens is the way the ticketing goes is like, there's one, like the top tier is like the VIP. That's for the people that just like die hard. Like if I was going, I'd be the VIP. Right. I would be like, I'm spending the most money because I'm getting it. And that you literally go to the VIP after parties, you go to the Gatorland event, you get, and you also get, like priority seating in the main hall to watch the talks, and you get the first option for meetups. Because let's say you say, hey, I want to do a meetup, and it's like, but we're only going to have 100 people do that meetup for you. Maybe you have 200 people that want to come. So once we're done with the 100 people, we're out. We can't do anymore, right? Now, some creators will probably do like 2 meetups. So I think we're going to cap 100 people on a meetup. Just from a time standpoint, we can't have everyone, we can't do more than that. But like some creators, if let's say there's a really high demand for a meetup for them, we may do like Saturday 100 people, Sunday 100 people. You know what I mean? Something like that. Not to mention, we don't want it to be too overburdening on the creator as well. You've done meetups. I've done meetups. I did a meetup in Utah a couple years ago where it was 8 hours long of a meetup. And that's like, 8 hours of meeting people. I loved every minute of it, but it's exhausting. So we want to keep meetups to literally like an hour and a half, and like give the creator a break after that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, the one in Virginia was I was going to be there like 10 to 5. But like the meetup was going to be like noon to 2, but it was like from 10 a.m. until 7 p.m. I think they finally like locked the doors, like nobody else can come in. It was just like all day I'm just stuck there. It was awesome meeting people, but
it is awesome. It is so awesome, but boy, it's draining too. We had one creator, which I won't mention their name, but they specifically didn't want to come. They're one of the very few people that turned me down, to be honest. And I really would love to have had them there, but their reasoning was it's too exhausting to meet people. That's exactly what they said. They said, hey, I did the Tinley Park show. It was overwhelming, and I just can't put myself through that again. And I was a little surprised and a little bit taken back by it, but that's okay. And not everyone's into the public's eye thing. It's not everyone likes people. That's why we're animal, and that's why so many animal people are like animal people, because they don't like people.
Animal people and YouTube people. Like I think there's a lot of introverts that make YouTube videos because it's like you can control the interaction. You can do it alone and post it. So it's kind of like you're being social, but really you're still just by yourself with a bunch of animals.
No, you're right. I'm that weird breed where I love people and I love animals. So like I love both. So it works out great for me. But yeah, I think it'll be dope. I think it'll be fun. It's obviously we're in the stressful stage now, where the next month or so is the really stressful part, because we're far enough out where we need to make lots of bookings and sell lots of tickets, but we're not so close that those last minute people are going to buy tickets and book hotels. You know what I mean? And so we're in that stage where it's like, and like I said, there's a series of deadlines that come up with the hotel that like you can't back out of. Like every time you hit that deadline, the penalty is more. And you hit the next deadline, the penalty is more. The penalty is more. And we're, as a matter of fact, we're about to hit the first penalty in about 10 days. That's our first, like, if for some reason we canceled, we'd lose money, but it wouldn't be like hundreds of thousands of dollars. But like every time, like the next deadline starts to get into hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's like, so you're always like, but I'm so committed and I'm so certain it's going to work that, although it's stressful and nerve wracking, it's, I'm not backing out. I'm going forward with this. This is going to happen come hell or high water,
Yeah, I feel you. I still haven't even booked my room yet. I'm waiting for, because I'm still pretty small. working on a shoestring budget here. So I gotta wait for YouTube to pay me so then I can go in and pay for the hotel room. But we've already looked at we've reserved plane tickets and marked it off on the calendar. So, I'm coming in and bring my wife and most likely my son as well, unless he decides to stay with his grandparents. But I seriously doubt he'll want to do that.
Yeah. Well, it'll be a great event.
Miss a trip.
It'll be great for them too. And obviously, we're going to, try to do as much to accommodate the families as well. And listen, the goal is this year was a tough year when it comes to finances, and publicly I'll say this, even though this is more for a private conversation. But our goal is next year, if it's a success this year, and then our goal is to at least cover everyone's hotels next year. So that at least you're not out of pocket there. This year, it's just literally the budget is so ridiculous, and I'm putting so much on the line. If I had to cover hotels, it would be another $150,000. So I just can't do it. But hopefully by next year, we'll feel more confident, and we'll be able to say, hey, at least let us cover that for you guys. Ease that burden a little bit. And because like I said, for me, like I told you, this isn't about making money. It's about making an amazing event. And if we do make money, we'll just pour that into next year, making it better, right? That's what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that at the end of the day, no better. If we sold out, at the end of the day, I'm probably not putting a paycheck in my pocket. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, if we sold out, there'd probably be some money, but that money would go directly into the bank that would pay for next year. And then if for some reason down the road, 2, 3, 4 years from now, this is happening and does well, and there is actually money in it, then that money's just going to go to making my zoo better, so that's pretty much all I ever care about, is just making it better,
And this probably goes without saying, but I'm assuming that this is, a kid-friendly, family-friendly event.
Yeah. I sure hope that, and that's why I wanted to do it before September, is because we wanted to make sure that it was before most kids went back to school, because there's a lot of, there's a tremendous amount of people that are kids that are, 13, 14, 10, whatever the case is, that are huge fans of all of us. And I want to make sure that they can come, and I think that's like the basis of it, is that. So 100% fan friendly. Now, the nighttime might not be family friendly. I'm not sure, the VIP parties might get, I hope they don't get crazy or anything like that, but there will be some alcohol and stuff. I don't drink or do drugs. So like for me, I'll be sober as could be, but there will be, drinks and stuff like that at night. So so some of the creators might have a little bit of fun, we might have to keep them away from kids.
Yeah. It'll be fun. I'm excited. I know everybody I've talked to has been super stoked. And people that, they want to, check out the event, buy tickets, all of that is, I think I got the website scrolling across the bottom for people that are watching this, but animalconusa.com. Like how late or how long will tickets be available? Like, can you buy them up to the day if it's not sold out, or is there like a cutoff?
Yeah. If they'll be available till they sell out. And okay. I mean, my gut feeling is, and I could be completely wrong about this, but my gut feeling is that like once this takes off, like once it becomes like where people, not just creators know about it, but the creators' fans know about it, I think it'll sell out pretty quick. Maybe not quick, but I think that I find it hard to believe that a month before it's not going to be sold out. I think it's going to sell out. Again, just judging by, number one, the success of other events like this, like say Playlist, for instance, even when they were at the Creep Royale, they used to sell 10,000 tickets, and we're only got 4,000 tickets at the same event, same place. And we're very genre specific, right? Now granted, we're more wide, whatever, but we're very genre specific, where it's like animal people, and so, but if we don't sell those tickets, they will be available the day of, people could walk up and do it. Obviously from my standpoint, I pray they sell out because if we go to the day of and we still have tickets, I'm going to be stressed out about it. But it'll feel really good to be like, okay, we're sold out. Now we know what we've got. Now we can go forward and we can just crush, But that's yet to be seen, and I can't control that whatsoever. And this is the first time I've done it, so I don't know what's going to happen. So, they'll be available till they're not available.
It's going to be an interesting thing to observe. Just like I was just thinking of, you have that many creators in one space. I can only imagine the amount of cameras that are going to be getting pointed everywhere.
Crazy. Yeah, it's
so if you ever wanted to be in a YouTube video, you got to go buy a ticket, because more than likely you'll end up in somebody's YouTube video, even if it's in the background.
There's going to be a lot of cameras growing around there, that place, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do Gatorland to the end the thing as well, so that creators, be filming the event itself, obviously, but we wanted to give people some animal stuff to film too at the end of the day, so that like for me, I usually film every single day, but for this event, I'm only going to film one video that will be the entire event from start to finish. So like I'll film for 3 days to make one video, and that end video will be Gatorland as well. So we'll be, and Gatorland is, really, they're great friends of mine. I'm so blessed to have Savannah and Mike and Danny and Mark, who's the CEO of Gatorland, friends of mine. And so they were really gracious to allow us to use the park for this event, which not only is for creators, but also for VIPs as well. So I think there's like 200 VIP tickets is maximum, but those 200 people not only get to go to Gatorland and the after parties and all the other amenities, but they also get to hang out at Gatorland with their favorite creators. You know what I mean? It's like, it's more social, and it's going to be crazy. But like I said, we could never have afforded to do Gatorland if they weren't friends of ours. You know what I mean? Like, to rent that park out for a few hours would have cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh, wow.
And thankfully, they're great friends of mine, and they're basically, more or less giving it to us for almost nothing, which is just amazing. And so it's going to be a lot of fun to kind of end the crazy weekend with my favorite place in Florida, which is Gatorland.
I actually lived in Central Florida for about 8 years. Wow. And always wanted to go to Gatorland, but never did. So, I'm excited about that. Is that the place you filmed that you were on one of Mr. Beast's videos?
It was.
Was that it? Was a Gatorland?
Gatorland, okay. Yeah. It was kind of a little bit of a bummer that they cut out Gatorland part. It was a little bit of a bummer because when I talked with the Beast team, I only had 2 like kind of requests to them. And one was, say it's Gatorland, say we're at Gatorland, so that they get some, like notoriety. And the second one was, I wanted Savannah to be in the video too. And so they filmed Savannah, and they filmed like, hey, we're at Gatorland, and they cut both of those things out. So it was kind of a bummer to me. I'm like, I felt bad because Gatorland. With that being said, the Beast team was unbelievably gracious to Gatorland as far as donation goes for that opportunity. But let me tell you about that. That went down a lot different than it was supposed to go down. Let me just tell you, because the idea was. And I mean, I'm giving a little backstory with that. I don't know if I'm supposed to, but I'm going to anyways, is that we were supposed to, we put these poles in the water that I was going to walk across to win $20,000. And the idea was, which by the way, the poles were not very secure. So when you stepped on the poles, they rocked like crazy, and, but the idea is that we were going to call the gators in. And then when we actually filmed, we were going to try to get most of the gators gone. So there's just a couple gators around, So the gators were supposed to still be there, but not like swarmed with gators. And somehow we got all the gators in, and then they wanted us to roll immediately and me to walk across it. And I kept on thinking to myself, like, someone's going to stop this, right? Like, someone's going to say, no, we can't do this. But everyone's just like, okay, let's go. And so now I'm like going, well, I can't say no. I just got to do it because I don't have the best balance in the world. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm okay, but when I'm stepping on poles that are wiggling like this, I was thinking the whole, because it took us 3 days to get it set up. So we knew what was going on 3 days in advance. And I was thinking there was a 90% chance I was falling in the water, which I thought was going to be okay for the video too, right? I'm thinking like, if I fall in the water, that'd be great. But I'm thinking there's just going to be a few gators. So I'm thinking like, if I fall, I just fall away from the gators, like as I'm falling, I just jump away from the gators, And but the way it went down, there was no place to fall. I mean, like if I fell in the water, I was probably losing an arm. I mean, like literally. And so it was 10 times more dangerous than I expected, and 10 times more dangerous than we thought it was going to be. And I was so once I got on that first pole, I was looking like, I have to make it across. Like there's no option but making it across. And I remember when I was about halfway through, I was like, oh my God, this is just not good. Because the poles, as we got further, got more wobbly. We knew that because the water got deeper. So the poles were longer and they weren't like pushed into the ground. All they were poles that were attached to a piece of plywood with sandbags on them. So as the poles got deeper, they got more wobbly. And so I knew that like as I was walking, it was going to get harder and harder and harder. And but there was no options. It was either like I'm making it or I'm going to fall in the water and I'm going to probably get chomped pretty bad by these giant alligators. But we made it across, and it was a pretty amazing experience, really.
Yeah, I was sweating for you when I was watching that. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he's doing that. But then in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm sure that this is somehow staged and there's safety.
There was no safety and and interestingly enough, like when we shot it on my channel, we were shooting from a long way away because we weren't part of the production team. And so you couldn't really see what was going on a lot. They shot obviously with like 5 different camera angles, including a GoPro on me. The thing that I found very interesting about it was that they cut out the most dangerous parts. And I think the reason they did that was I think that they realized that YouTube would think it was too dangerous. So there were times where there was a couple times where like an alligator would come up and I'd have to push it down with my hand because it was coming after my leg. And then the last part was like I was on the second from the last pole at the end. And Mike, the director of Gatorland was like standing on this thing. And there was a 10-foot alligator right in front of me at the end of the pole. And the idea was that I get done, I'd run past the alligator that's on the thing and it looked cool, right? So I was on the second from the last pole and Mike goes, Brian, jump now. And I look back and there's an alligator with its mouth open coming right at me, like with its mouth open. He's like, jump now. And so I jumped the last pole and then I jumped onto the dock. And when I jumped on this dock, I jumped like pretty close to this 10-foot alligator and it just swung and it missed me by like 4 inches. And
oh my gosh.
They cut all of that out. They cut all of it out. Because I think what it is, I think they realized they would have probably been demonetized on YouTube for dangerous acts. So it was just the first thing that I had done that was so dangerous that actually got dumbed down for YouTube, as opposed to like sensationalized. So like when I saw it, it was cool, but trust me, there was no safety measures there. I mean, like I was either going to make it or I was going to lose a limb. Yeah.
Oh, wow. But when we go to Gatorland, there's not going to be anything like that going on, right?
No walking across poles at Gatorland. But there'll be like everyone will get a chance to feed alligators there. We're going to do adventure hour with everyone, so everyone will get a chance to feed alligators. They have a bunch of different events, like they have something that's called Jumperoo that they're going to do while we're there. So they have several events that are planned for us when we are there. To hang out and have a good time. And then we'll just get a few hours in the park as well. So we'll have like kind of a guided kind of event thing that would go from station to station and have fun. Everyone will get a chance, like I said, to feed the giant alligators and get pictures with the alligators behind them. They, like I said, they have a place called Adventure Hour where 30, 40, 10-foot alligators will come up and you're literally a foot away from them and you're throwing food to them. And then you can turn around and get pictures with all the gators. So they're going to do that for everybody. And then a couple other events, and then we can just kind of walk around and have a good time in the park for a few hours, wrapping up the rest of the weekend.
That's awesome. This sounds like an amazing event, and I'm very excited. I know I keep saying that, but I am. I think this is like one of those events that I always dreamed would be cool. I always felt like, going to VidCon or something would be overwhelming, and there'd be so many people that I just didn't even know the channel existed, and because it's such a wide, just so many different, types of creators out there, but having something so animal specific is going to be awesome.
And that's
is there anything that we're missing that we haven't discussed?
I don't think so. I think it's just, I think that's about it. And I think you're right. That, like I said, my whole inspiration was VidCon and Playlist Live, which are really just the two almost identical events. And being to both of them, like you said, I'll walk around and I might know 10% of the people there if I'm lucky, whereas with this one, I'll know every single person there and most people will. And that's inspired. Like I said, it was probably 5 years ago that I came up with this idea, and it took a couple years before we decided to move forward with it. And then just about the time I was ready to start moving forward, COVID hit. I was like, oh, there you go. That's the end of it. And so we had to postpone it a couple years, and then here we are. So, yeah, I'm going to do I'm going to do the best I can do. That's all I can do. I want the fans to really enjoy it like a tremendous amount, but I want the creators to really enjoy it too, because I want every creator to come back next year. I want everyone to be like, this is going to be a yearly event. We're going to have a great time, because I know that we're going to make next year better than this year. I guarantee you that. We're going to learn a lot from our mistakes this year and make it that much better. But I want this year to be, I want everyone to leave with big smiles on their face, both fans and creators. And I'm a creator, so I wanted to make it an amazing event for me, so, and by the way, that's the thing I did tell my partners on the weekend of, I want to just be a creator. I don't want to be the promoter. I'll promote up until the weekend, but then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I'm just a creator. I don't want to be involved in, like problems they can deal with, issues they can deal with. I'm just a creator. I'm just having a good time. I'm going to be on panels. I'm going to be talking with meeting people. I'm going to be having a good time. And that's the way it's going to be. So I'm going to be like a kid in a candy store that weekend.
I love it. I think that's a good idea. That's the way to do it. I mean, and I think it'll almost be like a college reunion every year. It's like, it's that one time a year, everybody can kind of get together and touch base, and fans can come and interact with their favorite YouTubers or content creators. So, I mean, I think it's you're building something really cool that's going to, go on for quite a long time, which I'm super excited about.
I sure hope so. And the thing I think will be neat is like next year, the newcomers that'll come up, that, you know what I mean? Like the people that this year maybe just weren't quite, didn't quite have the following that we needed. Cause there might be someone right now that only has 1,000 or 2,000 followers that next year might have 100,000 followers, And so to see the new batch of people coming every year and being a part of the old people, it's like you said, it's that yearly, that's kind of, I don't do reptile shows anymore. I haven't for years, but like that was the thing that I always loved about, like, let's say Daytona, or before it was Daytona, it was in Orlando, and then it moved to Daytona. It was always like, I look forward to that event, not because of the reptile show, but because I could meet, all my friends from all over the country and really even all over the world back in the early days when that happened. It was like a social thing more than it was the thing. And Tinley Park was that way too. The only reason I stopped doing reptile shows is that just stopped being my business. Although I think I'm gonna really try to go to Orlando, the October Tinley this year. I'm gonna do my best. I said that last year and I didn't go, but this year I'm gonna really try to, because I've got 2 video ideas that have been killing me for the last like 3 years that I want to do at Tinley Park. This year I'm committed doing one Saturday and one Sunday, and they're both pretty banging ideas. I mean, like because this is the thing I tell people. It's like I stopped even when I went to reptile shows, I stopped filming them, right? Because when in the early days, as a matter of fact, my first video I ever put out on Snake Bites TV back in 2008 was at the Anaheim NARBC. This is when NARBC was still doing California shows. It was the first video I ever put out on the internet. And so for many years, I was the only guy running around with a camera, filming. For probably 6 years, I was the only guy. Well, then, fast forward, over the last 10, 12 years, there's 100 people filming that show. And so I always said, like, now I don't want to film a show because everyone else is filming the show. Like, what am I going to bring to the film that everyone else isn't bringing? There's 100 different NARBC videos out there every time there's a reptile show. So I really had to think about, like, how could I create something at a reptile show that is completely unique, that no one's ever done before. And so I came up with a couple ideas like a few years ago that I think are going to be really, really fun to film. You'll hear about them in the future, but so that's why. And Tinley's the only place I could do it at. These ideas because it has to be huge. There has to be a gigantic line. There has to be tons of people in order to make these video ideas work. So I'm excited about it. I'm a little bit nervous because it's going to be the first time I went to a big reptile show in like 6 years. I'm a little nervous about it, but I think I'll have a good time. And if nothing else fails, I'll be there in October.
Awesome. I'm hoping to be that one in October as well. Last time I was going to NARBC in Tinley was right when the governor shut down all events with more than 20 people. Like my wife was even like, they're going to shut it down. We shouldn't go. COVID's really bad. And I'm like, they're not going to shut it down. And as long as, NARBC is posted on their website, it's happening. Like, I'm going.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I'm not going with you. You can go alone. And I was like, my bag's packed. I'm ready to go. And then like the night before my cousin who lives in Tinley, or I'm sorry, her cousin that lives in Tinley was like, yeah, I don't think you're going to have that. They just shut down everything. I was like, no. Well, and she has reminded me of that since that, like anytime we have a disagreement, she's like, well, remember when you were wrong about Tinley? You should listen to me. I'm like, oh.
No, it's great. Well, interestingly enough, that it was March 13th that happened. Friday the 13th, actually, March 13th. And what was interesting about the reason I know that is that that was the day I opened the expansion of the Reptarium on March 13th, the same day as Tinley. And a bunch of people, the reason I know so much about it is a bunch of people ended up coming because we were open the whole weekend. We had like 1,500 people come to the Reptarium Friday, Saturday, and Sunday when the world was shutting down for COVID. And what happened was a ton of people came from Tinley because a lot of people were en route to Tinley, flying, driving, stuff like that, got to Tinley just to find out it got canceled. And so they're like, well, what else can we do? It's only a 4-hour drive to the Reptarium. Let's go to the Reptarium for the opening weekend. So we had this place packed with people for the whole thing. And it was kind of funny because afterwards you're thinking like, we didn't realize how serious things were getting. Most people remember the whole, it's 2 weeks, we're going to be back to normal, But yeah, so we opened up, I spent a ton of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do the expansion. I was open the 13th, 14th, and 15th, which is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday, the whole world shut down. And we were closed for 4 months. So we had 3 days open and 4 months to close down after spending all the money to expand and do stuff. But it wasn't that bad. It was an interesting, thing. I mean, we got a lot of time to spend with just the animals. Although, it was weird. Like when we finally opened up again after 4.5 months, the animals were like a little bit weird about it. You know what I mean? Like the animals were so used to having people around and being handled and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, 4.5 months, it's just me and the crew, And then when we reopened up, it was like, it took a few weeks before the animals started acting normal again, which is weird, But I remember that time well. And I remember literally all my friends going like, I literally landed in Chicago to get a message saying that Tinley is closed. So we're on our way. We're coming to your place. It worked out well for me, but it didn't work out well for those guys. And I'm glad that things are back to normal-ish, at least now.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Brian, it's been really cool talking to you and meeting you. And I'm really looking forward to meeting you in person, in August, and hopefully maybe even before then, if I can get a chance to sneak out to Michigan and check out your place.
You're always welcome, man. Literally, you got my number. Just hit me up and come play around with some animals whenever you want. But anything I can ever do it, I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on and supporting the whole cause. And I can't wait to see what the next steps are.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And I'll definitely be promoting it in my videos and on Instagram and stuff like that. So try to, make sure that the invertebrate hobby is well represented at Animalcon.
Well, I appreciate you guys are killing it. I appreciate all you guys. So yeah, anything I can do, just keep me in touch, man.
All right, will do. And thank you to everybody that's been listening. Check the description down below if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anything like that. All the links to everything we've discussed will be down below in the show notes. So make sure you're following, leave 5-star reviews, and hopefully we'll see you all at Animalcon in August. Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks again for listening, and we will see you all in the next podcast.
See you guys. Thank you.
All right, we are done.
All right,
Thank
cool.
you
well,
so much, man.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate all this stuff. And like I said, anything I could do in the future, let me know. And seriously, the invitation's always open, man. You want to come up, we'll have a great time. Seriously.